storm was crazy. Why didn't think that was a good idea? Oh yeah, that's why. Hey everyone, it's me, Jose. Welcome to a new video.
Gotham, the city of corruption in the DC universe.
A dark and grimy place where people are at the mercy of all sorts of individuals, like wicked criminal masterminds, crimes against nature, and people that are completely out of touch with their own sanity. But luckily, there's one man standing in their way. A symbol of fear in Gotham's criminal underworld. Batman. Throughout the years, the Dark Knight has tangled with all sorts of psychopaths, and each of them more dark and twisted than the other. And that's what this video is going to be about. The top 10 Batman villains. But before we begin, here's some ground rules for this list. First, the villain needs to have appeared in a Batman-related comic. So, Deathstroke and Solomon Grundy won't be appearing on this list since they first tangled with Green Lantern and the Teen Titans. Second, I won't be including any anti-heroes on the list. So please don't get mad at me, but Catwoman, Red Hood, and Harley Quinn won't be appearing on this list. And with that being said, let's begin.
Number 1. Scarecrow.
Starting off our list is the Terror of Gotham. Jonathan Crane, aka the Scarecrow, was always picked on by the kids for his lanky appearance, and his great-grandmother would constantly torture him by locking him in an old family mansion with hungry crows. But as he got older, he began to develop a fascination with chemistry and the human psychology, mainly fear,
which is what he would use to exact his revenge on his bullies and family.
During his time in college, he would develop a compound that would expose someone would make them experience their innermost fears. Dubbed fear toxin.
And when he was fired as a professor for his experiments in cautious teaching, he decided to go for a life of crime with his fear toxin as his main weapon, and his old nickname as his new moniker, Scarecrow.
What makes Scarecrow a great villain is that, like Batman, he also utilizes fear, only in a much more sinister way. And while he isn't much of a physical threat, he makes up for it by being a psychological one thanks to his fear toxin, which is so dangerous that even Batman's vulnerable to it, since when he's exposed to it, Bruce is forced to relive his childhood traumas, mainly the death of his parents. Although Scarecrow can put up a bit of a fight using weapons like scythes and needles, and a bit of martial arts mixed with dance fighting, which he learned after reading about Ichabod Crane from the Sleepy Hollow, a character he shares a lot of similarities to. Outside of the comics, Scarecrow has appeared in some shows, movies, and video games. His more memorable appearances are in Batman the Animated Series, the Dark Knight trilogy where he was a major villain in Batman Begins, and as the main villain in Batman Arkham Knight.
Alright guys, before we continue, I want to show you the spray I found inside my door. I wonder what it smells like. Number 2. The Penguin.
He may not look like much, but this is a bird you do not want to piss off. The Penguin, aka Oswald Cobblepot, was born in a rich family similar to Batman, but due to his deformities, he was despised by his father, always picked on by his brothers, and was bullied by kids in school. Although his life wasn't completely miserable, as he was deeply loved by his mother, and he developed a fondness for birds, but they weren't enough to deter the wickedness brewing inside him, as he decided to take revenge on all his tormentors, including his brothers and father.
Oswald then became the sole heir to his family's fortune, and by the time he reached adulthood, he used it to expand his criminal empire,
embracing the name his bullies gave him as his new alias, the Penguin.
Penguin has been one of Batman's longest-running foes, and despite his stature, he's proved to be a formidable opponent. Thanks to his wealth, Penguin can get access to any resource he wants, and pays off anyone to do his dirty work for him. He's also a brilliant thinker who strategizes elaborate plans for his crimes, as well as being a master manipulator, using his money and status to help him get out of predicaments if his plans went awry. And how could we not talk about his most iconic weapon? After his father died from pneumonia,
his mother gave him an umbrella so that he doesn't get horribly sick like he did. He would then modify it to include gadgets like blades, knockout gas, and even a machine gun.
And despite being a dangerous criminal, Penguin's trying to have a bit of a softer side, such as having a strong love for his mother since she was the only person in his family that ever loved him, and having a deep devotion to his birds. So deep, in fact, that when he accidentally killed one during a fit of rage, he immediately regretted his decision and was completely distraught by the incident. Thanks to his popularity, Penguin has appeared in countless other media outside of comics. He's even going to getting his own spin-off series that ties into the Robert Pattinson Batman universe.
Huh. You know, while I was doing research for this video, I never realized how deep of a character Penguin was. I guess you can say life is just full of... Why is there even a shark here?
Number 3. Professor Pig. Next up on our list is one of Batman's sickest and most disturbing villains.
Pig, aka Lazo Valentine,
was always belittled by his parents, mainly his mother, for how imperfect he was. I wonder if he had any nightmares about a weird homunculus telling him that too. But despite all that, he rose above their expectations and became a talented surgeon and scientist. So talented, in fact, that he was hired by a shady spy organization called Spiral, where they had him create a mind-altering drug that was similar to Alzheimer's. But one day when he had enough of the organization and decided to retire, they couldn't have that out of fear of him exposing their secrets, so they exposed him to the drug, which caused him to have a schizophrenic breakdown and develop a new twisted persona. Professor Pig. Now with his new identity, Pig believed that everyone around him were broken and imperfect, both on the outside and on the inside. So he found an attraction called the Circus of Strange and began touring around the country to kidnap people and do surgery on them to turn them into his ideal version of the perfect human. By lobotomizing them, removing their gender differences along with anything unique about them, and placing acidic doll faces on them to burn away their former identity, transforming them into lifeless humanoid abominations known as Dollatrons.
Yeesh. I thought Alice Angel and Dr. Steinman were messed up. Something tells me that these three will get along perfectly.
Now, you guys are probably wondering, why is Pig spelled with a Y?
Well, the reason for that is because when creating Professor Pig, writer Grant Morrison was inspired by the song Pygmalism by Momus. Named after the Greek myth Pygmalion, which is about a sculptor who made a statue of a woman so beautiful and perfect, he ended up falling in love with it.
And there's also the play Pygmalion, which is about a professor who teaches a woman how to be the perfect lady.
I guess that explains Valentine's love for opera and why his rants involve mythical figures. And one of the actors for the play, Rex Harrison, also played Dr. Dolittle, a veterinarian who talks to animals, which I guess explains why Lazo wears a pig mask, and why sometimes he makes animal-human hybrids. Now, what separates Professor Pig from the other villains is how messed up and repulsive he is. Not only because of what he does, but how he acts too. He genuinely sees himself as the savior the world needs, and all his actions are for the good of humanity, but everything he does is just completely inhuman in many reasons. Every action he does, every word he says is extremely nonsensical, and it's just disturbing to witness. Unlike some Batman villains who have a little bit of grasp with the real world and can be reasoned with, this guy is not one of them. Professor Pig is one of the few villains who are completely out of touch with reality, and there's no chance of him getting his humanity back. Professor Pig is a pretty underrated villain, and it sucks that he doesn't really appear in too much stuff. Although aside from his cameos and small roles,
Pig's major appearances were in the Cartoon Network show Beware the Batman, where he's an eco-terrorist and is a lot more gentlemanly than he normally is.
Another appearance was in the live-action show Gotham, where he sought to kill all of the corrupted people in the city, and he's just as creepy as he is in the comics.
I still can't get the meat pie tangled out of my head. And his more memorable appearance was in Batman Arkham Knight, and in it, they just cranked the horror up to 11 with Pig. Like, his side mission was my favorite part of the game.
Man, after this, I'm not sure I'll be able to go near another pig again. What the? Holy shit! Take this, you bastard!
Number 4. The Court of Owls.
Next on the list are the secret rulers of Gotham.
The Court of Owls are a mysterious society of Gotham's wealthiest that have been controlling the city behind the scenes. Think of them as the DC version of the Illuminati or the Patriots. The Court of Owls started a long time ago, and I mean a really long time ago. Originally, they were part of the Judas tribe, an ancient cult that worshipped a deity known as Barbados. No, not Barbados Slim, the bad demon one. The court believed they could bring their deity to life by infusing hosts with 5 mouths that turned into unstoppable killing machines known as the Talons. By the time Gotham was founded, the descendants of the tribe would form the Court of Owls and would begin controlling the city through their wealth and politics. Although if there's anyone posed a threat to them, they'll either send the Talons to assassinate them, or bring them to a large labyrinth where they'll slowly go insane as they wander, and eventually mercy killed. As the years went by, the court became somewhat of an urban legend in Gotham, and are only kept alive through folktales and a nursery rhyme. Beware the Court of Owls. They watch all the time, ruling Gotham from a shadow perch, behind granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth, they watch you in your bed. Speak not a whispered word of them, or they'll send the talon for your head. What makes the Court of Owls dangerous villains is that they don't just pose a ginormous threat to Batman, but to all of Gotham. They have eyes and ears throughout the entire city, so it doesn't matter where you run or hide to, because the owls will always catch their prey. And not only that, but their assassins, the Talons, are unstoppable juggernauts.
When fighting close quarters, it can be pretty impossible to keep up with them thanks to their speed. And with their extra knife skills, they can dice you up in seconds before you try to fight back. They also have incredible resilience thanks to the electrum in their system, an ally with reanimating properties that grants them enhanced healing capabilities. Although there is a drawback, as when the Talons are exposed to cold temperatures, their regeneration gets hindered and puts them on ice. Pun intended.
Oh, and here's an interesting fact. The court chooses potential Talons by scouting children trade in Haley's Circus, home of the Flying Graysons, which means Dick Grayson was going to become a Talon before being adopted by Bruce. Since the Court of Owls are relatively newer villains, they don't really appear in too much stuff outside the comics. Their more major appearances were in the live-action show Gotham, the animated movie Batman vs. Robin, and in the video game Gotham Knights.
They might even appear as secret major villains in the Robert Pattinson Batman universe.
But hey, in the wise words of the almighty MatPan, that's just a theory. A film theory.
What the hell? What happens to the lights? Wait.
Number 5. Hugo Strange. At first glance, he may seem like a normal scientist, but this mad genius is not to be underestimated. Professor Hugo Strange, who by the way is not allowed to be referred to as doctor due to legal reasons, was a brilliant and renowned psychologist and scientist, but underneath, he's a cruel and cunning monster that uses his genius to make scientific atrocities, like utilizing incandescent light to shroud an entire city into fog, and creating powerful genetically mutated humanoids known as Monster Men. Yep, that's what they're called. Monster Men. Great naming there, Mr. Strange.
But when his plans were thwarted by Batman, Strange dedicated himself to getting revenge on the Caped Crusader. But that dedication soon became an obsession as he studied Batman profusely and managed to do what other villains failed to accomplish, detecting the Dark Knight's secret identity as Bruce Wayne.
What's special about Hugo Strange is not only how he was Batman's first recurring villain, but he was the first one to discover who the Dark Knight was behind the mask.
And not only that, but they both share the same kind of skills as each other, like having genius level intellects, being in peak physical conditions, expert athletic skills, and being master of disguise. In fact, Strange even managed to disguise himself as Batman on some occasions.
Hugo is also an expert when it comes to manipulation and mind games. By using information he gathers from studying in person, along with his knowledge of psychology, he can get into the head of anyone and easily exploit them for his own gain. As one of Batman's earliest adversaries, Hugo Strange has made quite an impression in the comics and outside of them, such as in Batman the Animated Series where he tried to auction Batman's secret identity, and in the game Batman Arkham City, where he served as one of the major villains. Number 6. Ra's al Ghul.
Next up on the list is the demon who's able to go toe-to-toe with Batman.
Which makes sense as in some continuities, he was one of the many mentors Bruce had that taught him everything he knows.
Now, I just want to clarify, I'm still unsure what the correct pronunciation for his name is. So just to be safe, I'm going to be using both Raz and Ra's. Now, Ra's al Ghul is the leader of the League of Assassins and is often regarded as one of the most dangerous people in the world. Although that wasn't always the case. You see, a long time ago, and I mean a really long time ago, he was a part of a tribe of nomads in the Arabian deserts, where he was simply a nameless young man who had a fondness for science.
But he was unable to learn about through his tribe, so he had to abandon them and move to a city where he served as a physician and married a woman named Sora. One day, the son of the city Sultan contracted a deadly illness, so Raz went on a journey to find a cure and camped on a patch of land where he dreamed about being attacked by a bad demon and fell into a green pool that gave him enough strength to defeat the beast. A little foretelling, maybe? Anyway, after he woke up, he believed that this land holds a special property that could save the prince, so he combined other agents with it to create a reservoir that will restore the vitality of the prince, leading to the creation of the Lazarus Pit. When the prince was resurrected, he was in a state of berserk rage that caused him to attack and kill Sora. And to protect his son, the Sultan blamed Raz for the murder of his wife and sentenced him to be mauled to death by rats in a pit. But luckily, he was saved by the son of an elderly woman he failed to save, and the two men decided to escape the city, where they ended up running into Raz's old tribe in the desert, which was currently under the command of his uncle. Ra's then decided to team up with his tribe so that he can enact his revenge on the prince and the sultan and destroy the city. And once he succeeded, he believed he was higher than anyone, even the demon the city worshipped. And it was then he decided to be known as Ra's al Ghul, the demon's head. For the next few centuries, Ra's has trained himself in many different martial arts and has gained a great deal of wealth. Not only that, he would begin to train other assassins to become unstoppable killing machines that would be extremely loyal to him, and thus founding the League of Assassins. As said in the beginning, Ra's al Ghul is one of the few villains who's able to match up with Batman in intelligence and fighting skills. By using the Lazarus Pit, Ra's was able to live for 600 to 700 years, which is how he acquired his various skills, knowledge, and experience. And not only that, but he has a large amount of dangerous disciples that are willing to do anything for his cause, which was to bring environmental balance by eliminating a majority of humanity. Now, despite being at odds with Batman, he still respects him as an equal, and has been wanting him to marry his daughter Talia and take his place as the new demon's head. As one of Batman's greatest adversaries, Ra's al Ghul has made many appearances in other media, such as in Batman the Animated Series, the Batman Arkham games, and Batman Begins. Number 7. Two-Face.
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. A lesson Harvey Dent learned the hard way.
But before that, he serves as the district attorney for Gotham City, seeking to cleanse it of all the crime and corruption that plagues it. And with the help of Commissioner James Gordon and the city's Dark Knight Batman, Harvey began to make progress in making Gotham a better place, becoming the city's White Knight. But behind all that was a dark and tragic secret, as when Harvey was younger, he was frequently abused by his mentally ill and alcoholic father, who would often decide what punishment he would get by flipping a coin. But sadly, that didn't matter, as the coin was the same on both sides, which meant no matter what, Harvey was always going to get punished. And not only that, but Harvey was also diagnosed with the same mental illnesses as his father, such as schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, so he had to repress all that to make sure he doesn't end up like his dad. During his time as DA, Harvey's mental health began to decline due to trying to take down the crime families of Gotham and chasing after a serial killer named Holiday, all the while having nightmares of his childhood trauma. And one day when he was on trial for the crime boss Sal Maroni, Harvey ended up getting acid thrown onto his face, which left half of it horribly disfigured and one side of the coin damaged. This accident caused Harvey's psyche to completely shatter, as everything he had been repressing finally began to come out, which caused a new split persona to form. Enter Two-Face.
Two-Face has proven himself to be a noteworthy character in Batman's rogues gallery because of how much of a great villain he is.
After developing his Jekyll and Hyde mentality, Two-Face has become obsessed with duality and chances, always making decisions via coin flips, making him incredibly unpredictable. that, combined with his leadership skills and knowledge of law and crime, Two-Face has become one of the most powerful, insightful, and dangerous crime bosses in Gotham. He's even willing to team up with other supervillains. Another aspect that makes Two-Face a good villain is how complex and tragic he is. Ever since his transformation, Harvey's been in constant war with his other half and can barely make a decision without flipping his father's coin. And while he's still a ruthless criminal, he still has remnants of what made him a good person. It's the reason why Batman hasn't given up on Two-Face, as he still believes there's a chance at saving his old friend. Being one of Batman's most popular enemies, Two-Face has had a bunch of interpretations in and outside the comics. Some of them phenomenal, while others, well, not so much. Oh, by the way, here's a fun fact. In Two-Face's first few appearances, he was originally named Harvey Kent, but DC had to change it so that fans don't confuse him with Superman. And another fun fact is that in the pre-Crisis continuity, Two-Face's coin originally belonged to Sal Maroni. Oh, and speaking of coin... Right. Heads, I go back to making plush videos. Alright. Tails, I continue doing what I'm doing now. Alright, let's see. Oh, looks like it's Tails. Sorry guys, but gotta do what the coin says. Number 8. Mr. Freeze. Originally, Freeze was just a boring, gimmicky ice villain named Mr. Zero, but when he was reinvented in Batman the Animated Series, he became the cold, broken-hearted villain we all know and love today. Fun fact, Mr. Zero was renamed Mr. Freeze in the Adam West Batman show. Victor Freeze, that's Freeze with an I, yes, was obsessed with freezing creatures in suspended animation to keep them alive. His parents were disgusted by his questionable experiments and tried to find multiple ways of helping him, all the while becoming increasingly distant towards him. When Victor was sent to boarding school, he had to deal with constant torment and felt absolutely alone as he was shunned by everyone. But all that changed when he met a woman named Nora, and the two eventually fell in love. With his newfound happiness, Victor's life began to turn around for the better as he and Nora got married, and he got to become a cryogenist. Sadly, the happiness didn't last long as Nora was struck with a fatal illness. So Victor had to find a job that would be able to pay for her treatment, and got employed in a company called GothCorp. But he still wasn't able to get enough money to pay for her treatment, so, out of desperation, Victor had to put Nora in a cryogenic chamber until he was able to find a cure. But GothCorp CEO Ferris Boyle ordered the project to be suspended as it was losing him money, and have all the equipment, including Nora's cryochamber, to be taken. Victor tried to stop them in retaliation, but MK knocked his some chronic chemicals and was presumed dead. Now, in situations like this, you expected him to get some cool ice powers, but no. The outcome's actually way worse, as now, Victor's body can only survive at sub-zero temperatures. In order to stay alive, Victor had to build himself a cryogenic suit, and now with vengeance as his new goal, he made a promise to his wife that he will get revenge on the men that ruined their lives, and thus marking his rebirth as the ice-cold villain, Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is often regarded as one of Batman's greatest villains, and it's not hard to see why. With his intelligence and variety of powerful cryo weapons such as his famous ice gun, he's proven himself to be a formidable opponent for the Cape Crusader. Not only that, but he's often regarded as one of the most tragic of Batman's villains. Cursed to never be able to enjoy the beautiful sun rays of a warm day, but despite that, he still prioritizes finding a way to bring back his beloved wife. It goes to show how much he loves Nora, as he's willing to do whatever it takes to cure her no matter what. Mr. Freeze has been a fan-favorite character for years and has had plenty of memorable interpretations, from his legendary reimagining in the animated series to his phenomenal appearances in the Arkham games. Also, we don't talk about the new 52 version, and especially not Arnold Friezenator. Seriously, he really needed to chill out with the cold puns. Number 9. Bane. The next villain we'll be talking about is the man who broke the bat. Bane's life has been screwed up since the day he was born. In the corrupt Caribbean island Santa Prisca, a pregnant woman was told that she and her child had to serve the sentence of her lover for attempting a coup on the government. And so she gave birth to a baby boy in the dark horrid prison, Peña Duro. The mother then raised her son to safely of the prison infirmary, but by the time the boy turned 6, she had completely lost the will to live and died. Now the boy had to be sent to the actual prison, where he had to fend for himself in the dreadful environment. And one day when he was knocked over a flight of stairs and fell into a coma, he had a dream where his Teberosito showed him a vision of what he would become in the future. A larger-than-life man that was standing over everything that was in his way. And his adult self showed him that the only way for this destiny to be fulfilled was to conquer the one thing that was holding him back. Fear. With his new goal in mind, the boy began to make his apprentice known by killing an inmate that had been messing with him. And after the incident, the warden dubbed him as a bane to all that is holy. And thus, the boy began to be known as Bane. Since then, Bane has got the respect and loyalty from the other inmates, and he began to train himself to become like the man he envisioned. And to do so, he had to commit to an intense workout schedule to strengthen his body, and use smuggled books to sharpen his mind. One day, he asked one of his allies about Gotham, and he learned that it was a city controlled by fear similar to Belladuro, and that it was ruled by a vigilante named Batman. Believing him to be what the Bat Monster in his dreams foretold, he made a promise to himself that one day he will travel to Gotham City to challenge the Dark Knight. When Bane has proven himself to be too difficult to control, the Warden decides to make an example of him by having become a test subject for something called Venom. No, not the alien Venom. I'm talking about the drug Venom. An experimental super steroid that would drastically increase a person's physical strength, but was of course highly addictive and extremely dangerous, as previous test subjects ended up dying. But not Bane, as when he was thought to have died, he miraculously survived and used this opportunity to escape from the prison with his crew. They then made their way to Gotham, and Bane began to enact his plan to take down Batman. Starting by releasing all the inmates from Arkham Asylum so that the K Crusader would spend 3 months trying to round them all up. And during that time, Bane learned that Bruce Wayne was Batman's secret identity simply by observing his body language. So when an exhausted Bruce returned to Wayne Manor, he found Bane waiting for him, thus starting a savage fight with Batman getting beaten nearly to death, and by the end, Bane wins the fight by breaking Batman's back, paralyzing him, making it easier for him to take total control over Gotham's criminal underworld. Ever since his shocking debut, Bane has been regarded as one of Batman's most calculating and dangerous enemies, and the reason for that is because Bane is the perfect blend of both bronze and brains. With his superhuman strength, Bane can pretty much crush anyone that gets in his way. In fact, he was so powerful that Batman wasn't the one who defeated him, but his substitute Azrael. Bane can even become a greater threat thanks to his supply of venom, as once it gets pumped into his veins, it's game over from there on. Although his venom use can be his weakness, as he needs to take it once every 12 hours or else there'll be some negative consequences. In addition to that, his venom tubes can also be a vital weak spot, as if they're ever severed, Bane will go through some serious withdrawal, or if there's ever a malfunction, it'll cause him to suffer a deadly overdose. But he does manage to get over his venom addiction, and can still be a formidable opponent without it. Bane is also incredibly intelligent, as he possesses an extensive knowledge about a variety of different subjects, along with a photographic memory. His wits are even on par with Batman. In fact, both Bruce and Bane share a lot of similarities to each other, such as having terrible upbringings, spending most of their lives in corrupt environments, and sought to perfect their bodies both physically and mentally. They're even willing to team up with each other, like when they join forces to stop the smuggling of venom. While he's often diminished to a low-level thug, Bane still has some noteworthy appearances, from his hilarious portrayal in the Harley Quinn animated series, to his outstanding depiction as the final villain in the Dark Knight trilogy. Ooh, we're getting close to the top 10, but before we make it to the obvious pick, here's some honorable mentions of villains that sadly weren't able to make this list. Poison Ivy. The Riddler. Hush. Lady Shiva. Deacon Blackfire. And now we move on to the dishonorable mentions of villains that, well, let's just say have a pretty good reason for not appearing on this list. Condiment King. The Baffler. Mr. Camera. Egghead. Penny Plunderer. Now, I was gonna add these guys to this part, but with the modern makeovers they had, I don't think they deserve to be in this section. Number 10. Joker. Rounding out our list is the Dark Knight's arch nemesis, the clown prince of crime himself, the Joker. I gotta be honest, this part was a bit of a challenge for me, as with previous entries, we began discussing their origins to explain why they are what they are. But with Joker, he doesn't really need a backstory. Whether he's a desperate family man who fell into a vat of acid, a war veteran with PTSD, or a mentally ill comedian who was pushed around by society, Joker doesn't really need a tragic past to explain his motives. He's more like a force of nature Gotham similar to Batman. While the Caped Crusader sought to bring order to the corrupt city, Joker only sought to bring atrocities to it just for the sake of it. He doesn't care about the deaths he caused or the lives he's ruined. Joker's just an agent of chaos. Despite his clownish appearance and behavior, Joker is actually an extremely dangerous villain for many reasons. The first being is that Joker is a surprisingly genius criminal mastermind, as he can come up with a plethora of integrated plans and can go through great lengths to achieve them. It can also be pretty dangerous to take him on, as he can fight with a variety of different gadgets, and despite their comical appearance, they're actually pretty effective, with the most lethal one being his famous Joker Venom, which can cause his victims to have an uncontrollable laughing fit and die with a horrific gruesome grin. Oh, and speaking of grin, have you ever wondered what inspired the creation of the Joker? Well, he was based on the 1928 movie, The Man Who Laughs. Wow, who would have thought that such a sympathetic character would inspire such a sick, twisted lunatic? Another thing that makes Joker a menacing bad guy is what separates him from other villains: his unpredictability. You never know what the full extent of his plans are, and you can never predict what his next move will be. That's what makes Joker a dangerous enemy, as all his actions only make sense to him alone. But that doesn't mean he's insane, or at least not completely. I mean, yeah, everything he does is borderline insanity, but Joker only acts deranged. He has full control over every action he does, and is completely aware of all the havoc he causes. This shows how much of a monster Joker is, as he purposely causes so much mayhem just for his own sick pleasure, which is also brought on by his numerous encounters with Batman. You see, unlike most villains in Gotham, the Joker enjoys his runs with Batman. As to him, they're both basically the two masks of theater to each other, with Batman bringing the comedy to Joker by constantly trying to stop him, and Joker being committed to bringing as much tragedy to Bruce as possible. To put it in shortly, Batman completes him. The Joker has to be one of the most recognizable villains ever, not just in Batman, nor in DC in general, but in all of media. It doesn't matter if he's in the comics, animated, or in live action, neither if he's portrayed by Mark Hamill, Heath Ledger, or Joaquin Phoenix. The Joker is an insanely iconic villain, and that's why he's the top 10 of this list. That's why he's known as one of Batman's greatest villains. Well, that's all everyone. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you like what you saw, then leave a like and subscribe. Also, if I missed any information or got something wrong, then let me know in the comments. And feel free to let me know who your favorite Batman villains are, and which ones you think should be on the list. And with that being said, this is Superhost64, signing out.